All right, so you're gearing up for grad school. You know you've got a huge decision to make, and it pretty much boils down to four little letters: GRE or GMAT. Welcome to the 2026 showdown. This choice really can shape your future, so let's dive right in and break down exactly what you need to know to make the right call.
Look, you're here because you're at that classic crossroads, asking yourself, which one of these tests is actually for me? Which one is going to play to my strengths? And more importantly, which one is going to open the right doors? In this explainer, we are going to cut through all the noise and give you a clear, definitive guide to finding your answer.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a head-to-head tale of the tape. Then we'll get into the really juicy stuff, the different thinking styles and the math sections. We'll cover what test day actually feels like, what admissions committees really think, and then we'll wrap it all up so you can make your final choice. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which way to go.
Okay, first things first. Let's get the basic stats on the board. This is the tale of the tape, where we see how these two heavyweights stack up on paper before we get into all the strategic details.
Okay, so when you look at this side by side, a few things should just pop right out. You'll notice the GMAT has that data insight section, while the GRE has analytical writing. And that calculator rule, that's a huge deal, and we are definitely coming back to it. But here's a really critical difference: how the tests adapt to you. The GRE is section adaptive. So how you do on your first math section sets the difficulty for your second one. The GMAT, well, it's question adaptive. Every single answer you give changes the difficulty of the very next question. It is way more intense, and it happens in real time.
All right, let's get into the first real battleground. This isn't just about what you've memorized. It's about how your brain is wired to solve problems. This is probably the most fundamental difference between these two exams.
So think of it this way. The GRE wants to test the breadth of your vocabulary. It's going to throw some pretty obscure words at you and see if you know the subtle differences between them. The GMAT, on the other hand, it tests the depth of your logic. It'll give you a complicated argument and basically ask you to find the flaw, to pick it apart.
Yeah, and this quote just nails it. If you're one of those people who just loves to read, if you have a killer vocabulary and you appreciate the little nuances in language, then the GRE verbal section is pretty much built for you to crush it. It absolutely rewards word mastery.
And on the flip side, you have the GMAT. This test is made for the strategist. It's for the person who loves a good logic puzzle, who can look at a messy argument and instantly see its structure, its weak points. It's less about knowing a big word and more about being able to deconstruct a line of reasoning.
Okay, round two, the math section. The fight now shifts from words versus logic to a whole new showdown: straightforward calculation versus really complex data interpretation.
The difference here is absolutely massive. The GRE math feels a lot more like what you remember from school. Plus, they give you an on-screen calculator, which is a nice security blanket, and critically, it still has geometry. The GMAT has totally thrown geometry out. Instead, it has these unique puzzles called data sufficiency. The goal isn't even to find the answer, it's to figure out if you have enough information to find it. It's a very different kind of thinking.
And this phrase, managerial math, is just perfect. It really captures what the GMAT is going for. It's trying to mimic the kind of quick, data-driven thinking you'd have to do as a manager or a consultant. Looking at charts and tables and making a call, often without having time to run all the numbers.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the actual experience of sitting in that chair on test day. Because the design of these exams requires a totally different approach, forcing you to choose between a strategy of flexibility and one of precision.
Just think about what this means for you. On the GRE, you're pretty much in the driver's seat. You can jump around, answer the easy questions first, flag the tough ones, and then circle back. You're in control. The GMAT has always been this strict one-way street. You answer a question to see the next one. But the new version, the Focus Edition, has this really crucial new feature. You can go back and change up to 3 answers. It's a small tweak, but it adds a whole new layer of strategy to the game.
So we've compared the tests, but let's get to the big one, right? The so what question. Once you get your score, how do schools and employers actually see it? Does this choice you're making even matter in the long run?
Okay, first, let's be super clear about the official line. If you go to the admissions pages for Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, any of them, they will all tell you the exact same thing. We accept both tests, we value them equally, we have no preference. That's the baseline truth.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, there are always nuances. Let's be real. If your dream job is at a top consulting firm or an investment bank, there can still be a bit of an old-school, unofficial preference for a high GMAT score. On the other hand, if you're thinking about a dual degree, like an MBA and a master's in public policy, the GRE is like a master key. It's accepted almost everywhere.
So, we've laid out all the evidence. We've covered a ton of ground. Now it's time for the final round, where we pull everything together and give you a simple framework to make your own, very informed decision.
Honestly, it really just boils down to these 3 simple steps. First, take a good hard look in the mirror and assess your strengths. Are you the vocab wizard or the logic puzzle master? Second, get crystal clear on your goals.
Is it business school or bust, or do you want to keep your options open? And then third, based on those two things, you just pick your test.
Let's make it even easier. Here's your GRE checklist. The GRE is probably the test for you if you have a powerhouse vocabulary, if you want the flexibility to apply to all kinds of grad programs, if you just feel safer having that on-screen calculator for math, and if geometry is one of your strengths. And here's the GMAT checklist. This is your test if you are laser-focused on business school, period. If you're a natural-born logical thinker who'd rather deconstruct an argument than memorize a word list, and if you're great at interpreting data, even without a calculator, the GMAT is built for you. So, there you have it. The two tests laid out side by side.